Well, my colleague Deepak joins me live from the conflict zone in Kyiv. In fact, Deepak, so we're seeing Ukrainians fight tooth and nail for every piece of land in Ukraine. And now, in fact, they've also said that they've regained control of the capital city.
Well, yes. Now, while, of course, the Russian forces managed to cause extensive damage around Kharkiv, around Mariupol, and especially the regions around that, now, of course, we're hearing that multiple attacks have taken place in Odesa region as well. But, you know, Kyiv, the capital, of course, has remained pretty secure. There were a couple of attacks that took place a little bit on the outskirts. But around the Kyiv Oblast region, that is, of course, the satellite towns that surround, Kyiv, there was extensive, fighting that was happening. There were armored vehicles, there were tanks that the Russians brought with them, especially Irpin. We, of course, brought an extensive report from that town where there is large-scale damage to residential property. There was a street fight that was happening inside that area. Bucha is another place where, a lot of fighting has taken place. We've just heard and even seen some graphic images coming in from Bucha where some of the civilians, their hands were tied at the back and killed, and their bodies lay on the streets. And this was something that some of the photographers from the military who went inside after Ukraine said that they've got control of, managed to capture. And these are disturbing images that's coming. Now they're saying that the Kyiv Oblast region is free of any Russian forces. Mind you, there were negotiation talks that were held a couple of days ago in Istanbul where the Russian troops, of course, were supposed to pull back as far as the negotiation statement by the negotiators. Now, it's not very clear here whether the Russian troops actually decided through these negotiations to pull back because they realized that they've taken quite a beating while they, aimed at probably capturing Kyiv, or rather even Irpin, around 2 to 3 days. It took about over 30 days of battle there. And, a lot of Ukrainian artillery, armory, soldiers lost their lives. So it looks like it's more of a strategy of sorts. Ukraine is claiming victory around these regions. And, they are hoisting their flags in and around these satellite towns that I was just mentioning about. So we'll have to see after a few days whether there's another attack that will take place. But as far as soldiers are concerned, they say that they're pretty pumped up and prepared. The checkposts, of course, are getting only stronger as we go into these satellite towns. As of now, we've also been told for the next 36 hours to 48 hours, there will be a curfew around these areas because another round of sanitization exercise is going to be carried out, especially because they believe there could be some explosives that still remain on the ground, including, anti-tank mines as well that needs to be cleared.
Right, Deepak, so you did speak about the situation in Kyiv that seems to, see certain amount of de-escalation. You also spoke about Mariupol and Irpin. Of course, Mariupol and Irpin are the two cities that are heavily damaged. There's widespread devastation that we can see on our screens. But what about the western part of Ukraine border? Because now the western portion, the western part of Ukraine is one place that, for quite some time it was untouched. But, towards the latter half of March, we did see, bombing and an escalation of shelling even in that region, especially when US President Joe Biden visited Poland just kilometers away from Poland on the Ukraine-Poland border. We did see some heavy shelling and bombing in the military zone. So how's the situation right now in the western part of Ukraine?
Well, the West, of course, remains pretty much safe even now. There is, of course, the West is serving as a humanitarian corridor for everybody coming in from Kharkiv, from Sumy, from Mariupol. Just yesterday, we got an update that the Red Cross officials, along with several other volunteers and people by themselves, were able to escape Mariupol, who were trapped for about 25 to 30 days in bunkers. So, now the West is serving as the humanitarian corridor. Yes, in Lviv, there was a fuel depot that was attacked, and those were not, of course, there was no presence of ground forces of the Russian army there. It was a missile attack that took place on this fuel depot. After that, things have been pretty calm around Lviv, especially. That is, of course, the bordering city to Poland. So we'll really have to see whether that remains that way because as of now, like I mentioned, it's serving as a corridor for humanitarian aid to come in and also for the refugees to get out of Ukraine.
All right, Deepak. So definitely the West is serving as a humanitarian corridor. While there seems to be de-escalation in Kyiv, the situation in Mariupol and Irpin still remain grim. Thank you so much, Deepak, for getting us all that latest from ground.